our final feature for today is the Super Mario 3D Land Fresh Perspective. So this is as part of our Game of Some Other Year 2011. So it's one of the nominees, one of the 6 nominees. The other nominees are Minecraft, LA Noire, Deus Ex, Human Revolution, Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim, and Dark Souls. So this game came out in 2011. So at the end of 2011, whereas the actual 3DS came out at March or early 2011, and really probably provided the answer to the question of what was the point of the 3DS with its innovative use of 3D, including 3D in a lot of its puzzles. So, Mike, you're relatively new to this game, right?
Absolutely. Pretty much, yeah, totally new to it.
And Swinny as well, right? Yeah, did you've just recently played this as well?
Yeah, recently. The only previous experience with it was just a couple of times at random demo kiosks. So this was the first time I actually got my hands on it properly.
Yeah.
Awesome. I didn't know that.
So I actually played this game like ages and ages ago. I can't even remember, like 4, 5, 6 years ago. And I love this game and love this game so much. I feel like this is the only handheld Mario game that deserves to be considered in the lineage of Super Mario games. Now, what I mean by that is Super Mario 3, Super Mario World, etc., and then this game, Odyssey, etc. How does that stack up for you, Swinny?
You're not counting Wario Land, are you?
Well, there's a couple of things. So that was developed by a different part of Nintendo, and the only other game that I would ever say should have an argument to be considered as like a mainline Mario game probably would be Super Mario Land 2. But I just still think that game's super odd and super out there. And it's, to me, just personally doesn't... It's kind of almost in the same camp as Super Mario 2. Like, it doesn't kind of feel like a Mario game.
Well, yeah, the reason I asked about Wario Land is because it's like the whole Yoshi's Island situation where its tagline is Super Mario Land 3 Wario Land.
Well, I don't consider Super Mario Land as part of the Super Mario mainline.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Thread.
Yeah. This look. I agree. I mean, what else is there? You've got the new Super Mario Brothers games, but what other games? You know, other than the Mario Advance things they put on the Game Boy Advance.
Well, they're not new.
No, but I'm saying what else is there?
Well, Land 2, technically Wario Land, but that doesn't count. 64 DS, but that's a remake. And yeah, like you said, the new Super Mario Bros.
Well, by default, this is the best of them all, in my opinion. And I do like Mario Land 2.
Land 2 is great. Like, I don't know if you played that, Mike. That is one of the best Game Boy games. But we'll talk about that in another video. Yeah. So what stood out about this game? And we should also say, like, I played this game. This is one of the few 3DS games I pretty much played all the way through in 3D. Same as you, and then not for you, right, Swinny?
Yeah, so I played this game in 2D, and I'll get to how that impacted my experience. Okay. Well, I wouldn't say there's any good to it, but in the negative ways, I guess. So.
Yeah.
So I went out and borrowed a 3DS to play it, and then I actually went out and got my own 3DS because I loved it so much. So
I didn't realize you bought a 3DS.
I ended up buying one. Yeah, so I borrowed my girlfriend's sister's 3DS.
I think you mentioned.
I thought I did tell you guys. Yeah, I did mention that I ended up finding my own.
You literally bought so many consoles this year. I've lost track.
It's ridiculous. I know.
Switch, 3DS, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X.
So
is that the list? That's 4.
Maybe. Yeah,
One X technically with Cyberpunk, or was that last year?
No,
it was last year.
That was last year. Yeah.
Lucky.
So I enjoyed it so much that I just had to go and get my own 3DS just to be able to keep playing it properly and not have to worry about returning a console or something. Because I got my own copy of the game, and it was also quite interesting playing it on the XL versus the normal 3DS, and I tried it both 2D and 3D. 3D is definitely the way this game is meant to be experienced. Yeah. Obviously, it's designed so well for 3D. What I found really interesting is that when I had a 3DS way back, pretty much when they originally came out, I used to turn the 3D off. I don't know why. I think it just I wasn't really into it. Whereas now, for some weird, bizarre reason, I'm into it. I love it. Like I'm sitting there thinking, nah, I'm not turning it off. Screw that. When my girlfriend took it, she didn't really like the 3D FX, so she switched it off. And I'm like, oh, you're just missing on such a critical part of the experience. You got to play it with 3D on. So I ended up turning the 3D on for the entire thing. Now I have to admit, I made it up to World 8 at the very very end. Um, and I know, and I guess we'll talk about it, but I know that there's all these special worlds that you can also do.
Yeah, so you played about half the game.
So I played technically about half the game, right? It's crazy that there's so much content in the game as well in that sense. Because I felt like I played it for quite a bit. I felt like I really got my money's worth, if that makes sense, out of the game. Yeah. Just getting up to that point, I'm like, wow, there's so many cool little bits about it. There's so many different interesting levels to experience. And things to enjoy, and then I realized, oh wait, there's like something like halfway through the game. Holy moly, how much content does this game have?
Yeah, and like from a completion perspective, it's actually insanely long, this game. Like even for Mario games, it's actually right up there with some of the longest Mario games out there.
It's good value though.
Yeah, insane value. And going back to your original kind of question around the handheld stuff, this is the only handheld game that was made, like new game, from the EAD team that, you know, does the mainline Mario series. So and it very much shows, and it was so good that they ended up making a Wii U version of this game that is also now available on the Switch, which is 3D World plus Bowser's Fury.
But that's different, right? 3D Worlds.
No, I'm just saying it's like in that kind of like series of games.
Yeah.
I almost consider this as a different tranche of the 3D Mario games.
It's totally different. I was actually going to ask you guys the same. So you have way more experience than I do with this, but having just played Odyssey and then having gone back to playing something like 3D Land, I actually enjoy 3D Land more than I did Odyssey. I don't know.
Really? You like Odyssey
I don't know
as well?
if it's. I like both, but something about the way the world was in a more, I don't know how to even talk about it. Not linear in the sense that, you know, when I was talking about Narita Boy, the world being linear, but something about the way that the world worked, and then the way they introduced certain elements where, you know, there were parts where you had to keep going forward into the land. I actually enjoyed the experience more than I did Odyssey. So I don't know, like, how do you guys feel about that? Because you guys played the likes of Odyssey and Galaxy and all that stuff way more. How do you compare the two? Because they are distinctively different kind of games, I find.
Twinny?
Oh, look, yeah, I've watched a recent video that was actually really good, exactly about this topic, which is essentially we've got almost like three branches of Mario design at this point. You know, you've got,
which Nintendo also called out as well.
So, you know, you've got your traditional, you know, linear 2D style platforming. You've got your 3D exploration sandbox style Mario games like your Odyssey, and then you've got this that sits kind of almost in the middle of it. And it's really good to have, you know, like to be able to take your franchise character, your big character, and be able to take them down these different paths. I think it's really, really cool.
I mean, this may not make any sense what I'm about to say, but you know what a 2D platformer is. If I say, here's a 2D platformer, and if I go, here's a 3D sandbox platformer, it genuinely is like a 2D 3D a 2D 3D platformer. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes sense, yeah.
Or a 2D platformer in 3D world or something. It is super linear. It's a very loaded term. But within that world of it being linear, it feels very freeing. And I think it's also because it's almost like each level has its own gimmick in this game.
Yes.
And I kind of love how they just go, here's a gimmick. And all the levels are very short, which I also love as well. It's just like, here's a gimmick, like play around with it, and then you'll never see it again. Or maybe like until the boss, or like right at the end of the whole game. Like this game, I actually like absolutely genuinely love this game. And obviously for me, because I love Odyssey, like Odyssey was almost like it just touches on nostalgia in the most perfect way around how it deals with like Mario 64 and all these other things. And I don't want to spoil it, but you know, like that's a level that it kind of, it's impossible for it to reach, but it does come close. 3D Land. I really love 3D Land. I love how it riffs off, you know, Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario 3, Super Mario World within the first like 4 levels. It's just like amazing, and like aesthetically the way it's presented, it's perfect on the console. And you know, it was also very critical for 3DS. Like Nintendo was coming off a huge success with the DS and the Wii, and then they kind of had a rough launch of the 3DS. They chopped the price of it within a year. When it launched, it kind of didn't have really, you know, standout system sellers. And a lot of people questioning what's the point of the 3D. And like this game really did answer that. And maybe we'll just touch on the 3D components shortly, because pretty much to me, they always come to life with the 3D puzzles. And I almost don't even know how people do them, apart from just, I guess you just do it from just guessing. Like Swinny, you can talk to it. Like how do you do it in 2D, some of those 3D puzzles?
You just have to guess. You just have to like jump around. Oh, that block is in front of the Mario goes behind that block. It is not. Look, there are some that allows you can swap the perspective. There's like a button on the ground, but some of them you can't.
I didn't know that.
Well, some of them you can't. So thankfully, a lot of that stuff is optional content. So that if you have trouble with that, then then you can skip it. But look, this game, the whole 3D thing. So this game is is fantastic. I've got a lot of thoughts both for and against what I just said, but the main thing with the 2D and 3D, there are some levels where you struggle with perspective if you're not playing in 3D. Like it's clear that to be able to jump across these platforms, you need to have depth perception that you don't have. And so there's a lot of times where later on in the game also where I just couldn't figure out the right angle to jump across to a platform, whereas it was obvious that it would be clear when you view it in 3D because you see the depth. And I think one of the tricky parts, and I don't know, I guess you could talk to if it's better or not, probably the trickiest part I had was trying to aim like fireballs, and trying to figure out the right angle, how to hit enemies. Specifically, underwater was probably the worst. When I had the fire flower underwater, trying to figure out the right angle, because I couldn't tell exactly where the enemy was in the level, because unlike on land, you can see shadows and you can have a better ground.
You have to see shadows.
Whereas when it's in water, they're kind of the cheap or whatever, they're floating, and it's like, oh, where are they exactly? So that was quite difficult in 2D at times.
It's interesting you say that, because I then subsequently went and played 3D Mario World, where it's obviously not 3D, and
well, the game's 3D, but it's not.
Well, the game's 3D, but
visual effect.
Obviously, visual effect is in 3D. And I was struggling with a bunch of stuff where I'm like, I swear to God, I was struggling with this stuff in land.
Oh, I struggled in both.
I couldn't judge. I couldn't do. I definitely don't feel like I struggled as much in land, and I think that's because of the 3D effect.
Yeah, and I think this is actually one of the only 3D games that I can think of, because it's using the 3D visual sort of, feature of the 3DS. And I should say, I didn't play this when it launched. So I played it like 4 or 5 years ago on the new 3DS. So the small model that was released in Australia, quite common in Australia, but surprisingly found out later, very rare in America. So they really only had the new Nintendo 3DS. They only released the new Nintendo 3DS, the smaller version, as like special colors, as like an optional thing. Like it was way later as well, which kind of sucks because
the XL you're talking about?
No, the new Nintendo 3DS.
Okay.
The new Nintendo 3DS XL was everywhere.
Okay, gotcha.
But the new Nintendo 3DS wasn't really common in America, which is the one that I like and I have. Because you could replace the shells. So I've got like a Mario Maker shell that looks really, really sick. It's got like all Nintendo franchise characters in like an 8-bit style. Looks really, really cool.
Okay.
But I think this is like one of the only 3D games that I can think of where I've had almost zero issues with 3D itself. Like,
Yeah, same.
even like now, like I'll play Odyssey and I've played these games heaps. Every now and then I'm like, I misjudged something a little bit. I'm like, I feel like I just didn't get the perspective right. This game with the 3D on, I feel like every single time, like the depth and the way that they had the camera and everything, it was like perfect. It was actually like, it made the game so much. Like, and that's why it almost like, I haven't beaten 3D World, but I would struggle to put 3D World ahead of this game. I feel like just the whole
I wouldn't.
package.
Yeah. The whole package just felt so much better in 3D.
Yeah, like I just can't fault it. And going back to the special worlds, I actually want to go back to this game because I didn't get through all
Same.
the special worlds, and it's just such a fun game. And it's one of those games where you can really get through and collect everything. So
Well, I think that's a testament to the game. I felt myself playing it not because I had to talk about it or review it or something like that. I just because I really wanted to play it, and I'm actually now genuinely looking forward to continuing the game. Obviously I had to play other things in the meantime since, but I look forward to playing more and more of it, and I'm glad I actually got my own 3DS. Maybe I'm just secretly trying to justify my purchase. I don't know, but. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
And did you run into any other problems, Swinny, just around the 2D kind of aspect?
No, not the 2D, 3D aspect. I've got plenty of other problems with this game, though.
Well, go on. Go on.
Oh no, here we
No,
go.
so
Go
I
on.
want to focus on the positive first. But yeah, no other issues with the 2D, 3D. It was just, as I said, mainly like those random situations where I'd miss a platform or something like that. So,
Well, I'm interested to hear what the other things that you wanted to call out.
well, I want to just talk a little bit about what I do love about it then before I get
Go on,
there.
go on. Yeah.
So, this game is gorgeous. Even, in the horrible way I had to play it, it's still, I can imagine on a 3DS, it's just looking absolutely fantastic. And the level design, like a lot of that is just, it's truly special. I look at this game and it just kind of makes me sadder about the new Super Mario Brothers games. It just feels like where one went so wrong, in my opinion, this just went so right in so many ways.
But by the way, like I don't want to go way off topic. I don't think they're terrible. I think people bash the new Super Mario Brothers series a lot. The thing around they're not too original is like probably the biggest thing.
But for me, like I play those games and they just don't feel like they've got the soul of Mario. Whereas this feels like
I agree with
Mario.
that. I agree with
This is like almost like peak Mario in a lot of ways. Like some of the enemy designs, some of them, they're whether or not they're lifted from the other games, or they're kind of new things introduced. It's so cool. As you said before, Mario 3. This game reminds me so much of Mario 3, more so than probably any other Mario game. And that's helped by the fact that there's a lot of elements and music from Mario 3, but even just something about the worlds just feels very Mario 3. And
Can I just before you go on, because just like you picked something with me, just how you said it's peak Mario. I kind of get what you're saying, and I've never really thought about that with this game, but I almost feel like this game is more Mario in the vein of like the Mario I grew up with, which is like Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario Brothers 3, which is my favorite Mario of all time. I feel like this is almost more Mario than even Mario World, which is kind of a crazy thing that I've never thought of.
yeah, and a part of that I think is the way that the levels are nice and compact, and
Yes.
you jump on the flagpole at the end. Like this feels like I could see jumping straight from Mario World to this and being like a natural progression, like Mario 64 is obviously great and everything, but this feels like a natural progression from those classic ones.
Yeah, more than Mario 64.
Yeah.
That's kind of, yeah. And yeah, like it's the levels are uncomplicated but not simple.
Yeah, and I love how they're not afraid of letting the player experiment. So if you're creative with the moveset and the items that are available, you can skip whole sections and they're just kind of cool with it. And this isn't new to the Mario games, but it feels like you can get really creative with how you get past the obstacles in this game, which I think is fantastic. And just stuff like my favorite gameplay element, and I think they were introduced in Odyssey 2, but it was the red and blue panels.
Oh, they're so cool.
Yeah.
Where you jump and then they'll flip between them. And
They're massive in 3D World as well.
yeah, and
Yep.
it makes me like it whenever you have to kind of re-engineer how you playing as Mario for a split second. I just love it. I think it's such a cool addition, and I know it's not new. Like as I said, Odyssey 2 had it, but this is the first time I've experienced it because I've yet to play 3D World. So
That's really cool.
No, but this was, I think, in the
remember
Mario
them.
series is the first time they used it.
Odyssey 2 had them apparently. So
Odyssey 2. What do you mean Odyssey
sorry,
2?
I always say that. I mean Galaxy 2. I always say that.
Galaxy 2.
I always say
you're
that.
right. Yeah,
Galaxy
yeah,
2.
they did. Yeah.
They have changed them in World a bit, in the sense that, you know, they've got the timing is in the music plays. It's like do, and you got to jump, but preempt the color, and it's all timed. You don't actually do it based on when you press the jump button.
Yeah.
It's all timed within the game, which is it's a whole different element. It's so cool.
So I want to hear Swinny knock the game. Go on.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, there's some small stuff, but there's a specific design choice that I absolutely despise with this game that not everyone's going to experience. So, like, first of all, like some small things, because you know we've talked about what we love about the game. I think it's right that we even mentioned a couple of small things. I'm not a big fan of the boomerang suit. You know, other than its use for bosses.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Like,
either.
I will generally try to avoid it unless it's, you know, going to be obviously needed for a specific thing. Also, when you're going through the levels and trying to get some of the, you know, extra optional collectibles and things, there are times when you need a specific power up, and if you don't have it on you, it's not always like readily accessible unless it's hidden in a block somewhere that I haven't found. And it's like, okay, does that mean that I have to come into this level with that specific power? And that, I'm not a big fan of that choice, but it's I guess, again, a pretty small thing. And I think this might get better when you do like the Luigi run or whatever, but I don't think there's enough variety in the bosses when you essentially between Boom Boom and was it Pom? What's her name? The female Boom Boom? It's like Pom Pom or something like that. Anyway, I think that could have been a bit more interesting.
Yeah, Pom Pom and Boom Boom.
But I do love the, you know, I guess you could kind of call them bosses, the Bowser sections where you got to run past him. I think they're pretty cool. But the biggest problems for me, one of them is might be because of my specific situation, which is the controls. I'm not a fan of the controls in this game. They're very different to your other 3D games, which I understand. But it just doesn't feel, to me, it feels like Mario almost completely stops as soon as you let go of the controls. I'm used to him having a bit more momentum. And the problem for me is that the controls almost feel like an N64 era platform to me. And I
got to stop you, right? Because, like, we should call out, though, that...
Well, I'm going to explain. I'm going to explain the control situation.
I think you got to give the context first.
Predicament.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about it because, honestly, I think it will probably be the same experience on 3DS, but I'll get to it. Basically, I think this game needed that style of control, but I didn't like it. It's one of the, and it only really started to show itself later on in the game when I felt like I needed to be a lot more accurate with the things I was doing. I felt that there's times when I just didn't have as much control over Mario in the air once he jumped as I'm used to. So I think that that's part of it kind of soured the experience a little bit for me. But the issue I have is essentially I attempted to get this game, got screwed over by the mail, and I essentially had to play this via dodgy means. So that very much could impact the actual controller responsiveness. But I think about if I was playing this on my 2DS, I'm not a big fan of the analog nub or whatever you call it on that. So I don't know if I'd have much better experience because I'm using that nub anyway. So that's the criticism that may be specific to my situation. But I've heard that, you know, the controls are quite different in general to, let's say, your Mario 64s and things, and I feel that that's how I prefer Mario to control in a 3D space, in my opinion. So, yeah,
like the reason why I was like objecting is it's kind of reminds me of when people criticize like, Punch Out. They're playing it on a HD TV through an emulator or something like that, and they're like, "Oh, this game sucks. It's impossible." Blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, you're meant to play it on a CRT. It literally has like 3-frame input that you need to do, and with the HD TV with delays and stuff, you literally can't do it. You have to guess, right? Like, controls are very much about feel, right? And they built the game around the crappy analog control that the 3DS has, which sucks, right? Like the 3DS's, analog stick is horrible. But part of it is like, how the 3DS controller moves, Swinny, and, really snaps back quite aggressively and stuff like that. It's kind of the reason why Mario moves like he does in this game. And I not once had an issue with the controls. Like it felt tight. Like pretty much, I don't think there's been a Mario game, like a mainline Mario game that I've played that I haven't felt like the controls are tight for what they are in that era that they came out. Mike, like, did you feel you had any issues with the control?
No, I don't recall having any real issues with it.
I think it's the setup.
It might be the setup.
I think I'm just not a fan of that style of what they've done with the controls.
But I don't think you can really judge that. I think it's like judging something that you literally haven't played it with the controls that it was designed for.
There's parts of it, yes, that I agree that could be the case, but honestly, I just prefer the way Mario controls in other 3D titles. It's just not my cup of tea. Yeah.
I do want you to play it. Like when I see you next, I'll give you my 3DS.
But that's the lesser of that's the lesser of
now.
the two. Like I have a major gripe with design. Of this game.
Go on. Well, the first one doesn't count, but yeah, go on. What's the one gripe?
Just real quick, sorry, on the first one.
Completely negate my point. Why don't you? Thank you.
No, but like honestly, I think you need to actually try it.
Mario is not above criticism. I'm sorry, and if I feel that's the case.
I think you know that I like to criticize things. I'm more than happy to criticize things. I got no issue with that.
Sorry,
but
Mike.
What's the second gripe? What's the second gripe?
No, I was going to quickly say, interestingly enough, I found the momentum and world sometimes a little too much, where I would feel like I would lose control of the character because it wasn't snappy enough. Like almost the opposite problem that I think you were almost feeling, where I was overshooting things because I misjudged the amount of momentum that the character had, or judged the amount of momentum the character had, which is fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played World, so I can't judge that one. But
yeah, you'll see. It'll be. I'd love to talk about it when we all play it properly.
No, the main issue I have with the design is that the fact that they put gates in progress in this game.
You need a certain number of stars to.
Okay.
Oh, okay, weird. Okay, that's
so
really weird.
the major issue I have with this, and this is not going to be an issue for most people, right? When I'm playing a Mario platformer, a linear platformer, this is basically a linear Mario platformer.
Mm-hmm.
There's been no Mario game that has gated off progress for optional things that you have to collect. Now, if you look at a game like your Mario 64, your Mario Odyssey, even games that are similar that have, gates for progress, like your Banjo-Kazooies and things, they're all part of what you are told and the main objective of what you're doing in that level. Okay, collect the shine, collect the star, collect the moon or whatever, right? That is what you need to progress. I was essentially, I wanted to experience what I could, most of this game that I could, when we went to chat about this. So I was playing through and I decided, look, I'm going to, kind of like the Donkey Kong situation, I'm going to just, try to get through this game.
I feel like every game that you're trying to speedrun, you end up hating. But these are like, fuck these controls.
No, but these
fuck the gating.
No, but these are platformers that and that's an optional thing. No, I want to finish this point because it's very important to me. This almost stopped me from playing the game.
Damn.
When I got to the point that had the first gate that at least I noticed, and it said, okay, you need 50 of these star coins, which are optional things that, or at least you think they're optional, right? Well, obviously, once I found that out, I realized they weren't optional. Or at least the majority of them. And then suddenly I had like 30 out of the 50 because I just decided to stop collecting them because I'm like, whatever, I just want to play through these levels and experience the design of these levels. And then I had to essentially go and play through the majority of the game again to collect these. Now,
that's a fair point.
The reason why most people aren't going to have this issue is because most people are going to collect them. Right? And I completely understand that. But what shocked me was that this almost seems completely anti-Mario to design it this way. And what I realized is so I played all the way up until the end of World 8, or at least what I thought it was, and then it continues a little bit. and then I hit the 91, and I literally had 90 on me.
Oh.
I had 90 on me because from that point onwards, I was collecting them.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
yeah.
man, like, I don't understand the reason for putting that. Why did they put those progression gates in? I mean, there's things you can unlock, like bonus levels and stuff along the way if you've got the amount. I understand that. But to stop your progression through the main game from these optional collectibles just seems anti-Mario.
I agree with that. I think I totally agree. I feel like in general, it is anti-Mario. It's not in the style of Mario. The only thing that I could think of
It's
why they're doing
unnecessary.
it is because they want you to explore the levels more.
Yeah.
And they want to, create not even an incentive or demand. It's funny you say that because every time I hit those things, they're like, you need 30 coins or stars. I can't even remember what it was, right? What is it? Stars or coins?
They're like star coins or something.
Yeah, star coins, right? You need 30 star coins. I'm like, oh yeah, here's 50. Like I had so many, like it was nothing.
Yeah.
But I do understand your point. And in general, I hate that in games. Like when it is like a game that's progressing through levels, I never really understand the point of it. Like I get that they're saying I should collect more, but like kind of why are you arbitrarily making it almost like a university course where I need to have this module and then that module, and it's almost like you get up to the final year and they said, well, actually you needed to get 80% in those exams in year one. So go back to year one and do those exams and then come back later.
And don't get me wrong, I think this is an absolutely brilliant game. That's why I wanted to cover some of those positives first to make sure people know that I do think this is a great game. But unless I missed something at the start, because I played like the first two worlds quite a few months ago and then came back to it. So unless I missed that, to me, all it would have been is almost like something right at the beginning in the first couple stages where it kind of had like a check to make sure that you knew that it was kind of important to pick them up, And I think then it would have been like, okay, then whatever. But it just, it seemed a strange decision, a really strange decision. So I just, but look, they're fun to collect. Like I love the secrets and everything, and the way they put so much into these worlds, and they're not very big worlds, but they put so many cool details into it. The collecting them is fun. I just wish I would have known that they weren't optional. So
Normally like these kind of games, the way you design around it, if you want to make it like this, and I wouldn't make a game like this, like where you have these hard points that you can't get through unless you collect. And I believe they did in 3D World as well, Mike, from memory.
They do. It's the
Yeah,
same
they do.
thing.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
You need
but
a certain
again,
number of stars to unlock.
I get up to those bits and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. I've got like 50 more than
Yeah, I
it's
usually
asking
have
for.
enough.
Yeah. Because I love those games and I pretty much collect almost everything just generally. But normally what you do in these kind of games is you show it almost at the start. Like you need to get 90 to be able to get through this final bit. And then you're kicked right back to the start of the game or something. So in the back of your mind, you're like, shit, I need to get 90 of these at some stage.
I think my girlfriend will agree with you as well, Svenny, because she got stuck in a bunch of places when she was playing World.
Really?
With the same thing, yeah, because she was
Shit.
rushing through certain bits. I didn't bother taking stuff, so she had to go back and find more stars, and then she'll hand me the Switch and go, "Can you please get some stars for me?" So I can see other people would probably agree with you. But again, I had the same experience as Intergod, where I always had way more than enough stars in both games, both Land and World as well, where that never even occurred to me, to be honest. It was always like, oh yeah, just continue, because I always had enough.
And part of this is, look, we are wanting to play through, I play a lot of games, right, of course. And there's times when I potentially plan things out. So, okay, I set aside, like 5 or 6 hours today to just play through as much as I could of the game. And I kind of wanted the whole point of me, so we can discuss it, is seeing as much of the game as I can so we can talk to it. And that is not the best way to play a game like this. I completely, and that's not the way I normally play a game. It's just kind of the way that, and it's similar with Donkey Kong Country Returns, although that one I had, I had other pressures that didn't mean I could play it. But it's like, so I want to reiterate that, look, most people aren't going to come across that issue or that weird design choice. I just couldn't understand it, but I love the game otherwise.
Yeah, that is a completely unnecessary design choice. But I think most regular playthroughs, you'd be collecting enough to get to 90. I can't remember how many there is total. It's way more than 90 though, from memory. It's like 150-ish or something like that.
I don't remember, but yeah, it's quite a few. And again, yeah, if it just so you know now from when you play World, same problem.
Well noted.
Collect them as you go.
Well noted.
I have to say though, Swinny, in World, I feel like it's way more obvious early that you need to be collecting these things. I think early on, even the first castle.
All the castles needed, yeah.
No, but I'm saying in the first castle and the first world, it's like you have to collect quite a lot to open that up from the start. So you have to at least play the optional levels. But that's another thing, Swinny. The optional levels give you a ton of stars.
You know what might have happened? Like, maybe I'll start a new game to check it. You know, when I first started playing the game, I was a lot more slow in exploring, and maybe there was an early check that I just didn't notice. It's possible. It's possible that the way I split my play periods up of that game kind of screwed me with that. But whatever.
Yeah. And you know, honestly, like given that I'm saying that I think that this would be in the Super Mario series, the same that has like, you know, Super Mario World, Super Mario 3, I would actually find this really hard to put in a tier list. Like, I'm not really sure where I'd rank this in all the Mario games, but it'd be up there. I feel like I'd put this above Super Mario Brothers 1.
Maybe. I mean, a lot of Super Mario Brothers 1 is also nostalgia, you know. It's kind of...
it's a good game. Still
it's a good game, but, you know, if someone's coming to it now, or new, to compare that to a 3D Land, you're going to have a tough time, you know.
Sure. But I'll probably put it above Sunshine. I don't know. I don't want to do this tier list now. But... Well, does anyone else have anything else to say about this game?
No, other than for me personally, who wasn't hugely into Mario. Again, I played the classics and stuff like that, but I missed out on a few of the more recent titles. I loved it to bits, and I played it after I clocked Odyssey, and I actually enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Odyssey. So to me, I think it's a testament that it's a really cool, fun experience. I was playing it till my hands were cramping on the Switch, on the 3DS, like really seriously cramping, and I still wanted to keep playing it.
That would be cool if they released it on the Switch. I know that the whole meme of release everything on the Switch.
Yeah, I know. And the 3D-ness and the lack of 3D would be really
That's
interesting.
What I was thinking.
Like what happened to Sony, but
yeah, is like, do you lose? You lose a lot with that game unless you change it up a bit.
Yeah.
So.
But hey, it works. It works without it. It's just it's not the same experience, but it's still totally playable experience.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right,